you're going to drill down in, and these are all the objects that are contained within object folders inside this controller. So if you wanted to view what the input objects were, you would go to your input objects folder, click on the little plus menu, and it's going to drop and tell you which each one of these are. So this in particular is the input objects. They've been labeled as to how they appear on the training board, right? So here's your analog input 3, which is DAT_2. So if you look, here's your DAT_2. Okay. Same thing here for your outside air temperature. So your outside air temperature is right here, OAT. Okay. And then you've got some binary inputs here, which is your AFS2, that's your fan status. Oh, I'm sorry, your airflow switch. So that's your airflow switch right here. Okay, so and that follows throughout on both controllers. Okay, so if we wanted to look to see what the discharge air temperature for our air handler 2 is, you can simply double click on that object, and then it'll appear in here. These are all the properties for this particular object. As of right now, the present value of your discharge air temperature is at 111 and 61 degrees. So it's a little hot, but it's tied to this little potentiometer here, so we can turn it down. You can see now it's changing our temperature here. Same thing with your outside air. So if you open up our outside air, notice how it actually opened up another tab. So now you're looking at your air handler 2 discharge, and then this tab is your air handler 2 outside air temperature. And right now it's 74.8 degrees. So we're gonna hang this guy up a little bit. So now we're at 78. See how it's going up. Okay. So airflow switch. So we take a look at our. So right now it's active, telling you that okay, the airflow switch is on. Now it's inactive, so now the airflow switch is off. Okay. And that's always going to appear under the present value. So for every single one of your objects, it's going to have a present value property, and that's going to be what it's reading currently. Okay. So let's go take a look at our outputs real quick. So that's going to be another one. So right here is your output objects. So we'll just drill down into that, and you can see you've got 4 output objects in here right now. You've got 1 binary and 3 analog outputs. So your binary is going to be your SF2 or your supply fan. Okay. So if you look right now, double click on it, you can see that its present value is active under priority number 9. Okay. So that means it's got right now priority 9 is going to be the internal software that's driving that output. So let's say we want to override the fan off. So you would simply select in the drop down box inactive. Now we need to tell it which priority to write to. So if the software is internally writing to priority 9, we need to write above priority 9. So we'll set it priority 1, which happens in manual life safety. Okay. Then you're going to save your changes. Now your supply fan turned off. Okay. So now if we want to release that, if we hit this little button here, this is an expanded menu. This will unexpand your menu. And you can see that there's a priority array on here. Click that to expand it, and you can see here's all the levels of priority or priority levels that you have for this particular property. So you can have up to 16 things telling this one output what to do in descending order of prioritization. So of course anything at 1 trumps anything else below it. It's emergency. We're turning this thing off. There's a problem, and our software writes it priority level 9. So if you just click on the box here, hit relinquish selected. So now the software took over automatically, and turn it back on. Okay. Now you have other objects in here. Of course, you've got analog value objects, which are going to contain all your set points, all your bias settings, your minimum outside air and maximum outside air damper positions. And you can always double click on them to see what they're set at. So currently, right now, your maximum outside air damper position is 100%. Your minimum outside air damper position is at 10%. So if you take a look at your outside air damper for air handler 2, you can see you're actually at a minimum position of 10% right now. So we can change that if we want. So let's change it to 50%. Oh. Just gonna change it here. 50. Okay, so now you can see that our minimum outside air damper position is now 50%. If you look at your damper, we're now at 50%.
Okay.
Now I'm actually not manipulating the outside air damper output itself. I'm just manipulating the set point for the minimum damper position when it's running. So when this system goes occupied, it's going to open the damper according to whatever your minimum outside air is. So for every air handler system, you have a minimum requirement for fresh air. So this is where you would set your minimum outside air damper position to meet that minimum fresh air requirement. Okay, so that's air handler 2. That is this controller right here, and you happen to see that it's address 4.
Okay.
So air handler 2 is address 4. Air handler 1, which is this guy here, is address 5.
Okay, so I can mark those.
Yep. And you can see this actually when it displays in the menu, it displays by device ID. So the device ID of this is 101004.
Okay.
And that's this guy right here.
Okay.
Okay, and then as you can see, there's quite a few objects in here. You've got your PID loop objects. These are for your analog output control. So this is what controls your heating and cooling loops and tells you how much demand there is for cooling or how much demand there is for heating. There's about 200, well, these ones actually have about 380 separate objects in it that can be manipulated and a whole bunch of properties. So I mean, we could spend a couple hours going through them all. Did you have any questions right now?
Not too much, because I'm not real familiar with, like these. So.
Well, what I would recommend is go ahead and kind of go through some of this stuff.
Yeah, just play with it.
Open it up, play with it. Like I said, what you're going to want to look at, I mean, right now, your inputs and outputs, those are what you're going to be able to directly control from the face of this board. Okay, so I would start there, kind of get used to how they operate and how they look. Again, let's go to air handler 1.
I thought you had only set up like this side, but you
No,
have both of them.
both sides are operational.
Okay.
So this here would be a air handler with both a heating and cooling coil on it, and with an economizer damper. Now this side, however, is a air handler that has hot water heating, but it has 2 stages of DX cooling on it. So this one actually works a little bit differently than this one would. Also, this one's actually got a physical valve on it, and this one has a physical damper actuator on it. So I was going to go show you, if you go to your air handler 1, go to your output objects, and you go down here, you can see you have an economizer damper 1, ECD1. Okay, so I'm going to double click on it to open up the properties. And you can see right now it's set at 10%. So again, I'm going to override this thing. I'm going to go to 80%. I'm going to select priority number 1. And I'm going to save my changes. So now that damper is going to go to 80% open.
Okay. So the thermostat here, and what's the other control?
So this would be like the room temperature for this air handler, and this one is the room temperature that's connected to this air handler here. So we just put 2 different types of sensors on here. so that you can see the difference. Of course, this one has got a dial to set for warm, cool adjust. This one you can actually go inside and adjust them.
That's more the base model. That's
Yeah, basically yes.
yeah. Okay. They're both pretty inexpensive. That one's
Yeah, they're not much more. I mean, this one I think is like $20 or $30 more.
okay.
But
So I can label those.
yeah, but again, this one's attached to air handler 1. This one's attached to air handler 2.
All right.
I see you've already kind of marked over
Yeah, the old.
the old nomenclature for them. So, other than that, let's go ahead. Like I said, go ahead and play with it for a little bit. Let's set up another time.
Yeah.
We'll come down here and we'll kind of walk through. I know he had a book of exercises here.
Yeah.
That he was looking to step. Do you know how far he got on that?
No, not at all. Yeah. So.
So that's probably going to be the next step, is kind of stepping through them and working through some of the exercises on here and seeing how they actually work and apply to the board.
Yeah. And if you think there's something that's easier, like, I mean, just some kind of little something that you could throw together in your mind that would be like, oh, let's just do this and make a simple little, you know.
So just like anything else, start them small, right? So, you know, what happens when what do you think is going to happen when you unoccupy the unit? Well, your economizer damper closed, your supply fan shut off, all your valves are going to close, okay? And then you just build from there. So let's turn it on, manipulate your discharge air temperature. What do you think that's going to do to the unit? And kind of we'll go through and I think that's pretty much what these labs do.
Oh, okay. If you want, you can have a copy of that. You know, I don't know. See what you think. If it's worth just trying to use those, or if
Well, these probably are pretty easily adaptable because
Okay.
I didn't follow their documentation.
Yeah.
I just downloaded what our generic air handler type programs are in here, but they're not exactly too dissimilar, right?
Okay.
So this air handler with this particular equipment in it isn't necessarily going to operate differently than another air handler with the same type of equipment in it. They're going to operate pretty much identically.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, so see here, set the duct air temperature to 53. So you would go into your,
Yeah, I think they have you just kind of manually set things in certain
so you would go
spots.
into your duct air temperature too. And you're currently at 99, so you'd want to set it to 53.
So as of right now, we can almost just go through and.
Yeah, you should be able to follow the majority of this stuff and see it work, right?
Oh, okay.
So it says that the heating coil valve HCV1 will modulate open and attempt to heat the air. Now, which system is this supposed to be on? Okay, so this is supposed to be on AHU1, but
Okay.
so, but yeah, we should be able to step through some of these, and it should follow along pretty closely.
All right.
So I would suggest kind of going through some of these and just doing a little bit of it and seeing how the program operates.
Okay.
We may need to change a little bit of the programming, but we can definitely do that. I mean, that's something we can work through.
Okay. All right. Cool. Great. Well, I guess they're working on trying to maybe get someone else too. It's probably hard to find somebody who is familiar with this, come out of the industry. You know what I mean?
Oh, there's people out there. You'd be surprised.
Yeah, they're hunting for somebody. So if you know anybody who wants to do like part-time, you know,
I'll keep an eye out.
instructing, yeah, you got my information. So
Okay. Yeah, step through it. Let's set up another time. Let's set something up maybe once a month for an hour or two.
all right. Yeah, and
Maybe
I'll get
maybe
the
every 2 weeks. You know what I mean, Eric? Just something to keep you kind of fresh on it, and we'll go through it.
That's the other thing is I get doing other things and I can.
I
use it
know
or lose it.
exactly how that goes. I've got 6 active projects right now, and they're all, I'm working